Founders Park Media and Samurai 7 Books presents Cosmic Champions. Written by Mark Caldwell Jones. Read for you by Play AI. Cosmic Champions. Part 9. Battle Moon. Last Stand. Chapter 62. As they had for ages before, the Skulks led the players into battle. First, they formed a defensive line along the retainer wall, then created a protective pocket for those champions with ranged weapons like Aspy, Deadlast, and Pixel. Most of the Skulks formed battalions to attack the outer edge of the advancing horde. With both red and blue standing side by side, it was reminiscent of an American flag going into battle. The Skulks fought with their normal fearlessness and resiliency, but the horde viciously mowed them down. Even with the added support of the champions attacking from the air, the horde somehow advanced. After a long time of fighting, and when 2/3 of the Skulks were dead and gone, Alex, Luna, Sparkles, and the rest of the Modfia and the Creep Cannibals regrouped on the edge of the ridge overlooking the retainer wall. "We're taking too much damage," Genghis said. "I'm not sure we can stop that thing." "We don't have a choice. We have to, or we're all dead," Alex argued. "Oh, but look at that health bar," Jed yelled. "We've barely made a dent." "Its defenses are too tough," Ms. said, shaking her head. "Even at my strongest, I couldn't break through into the center of that." "The center," Aspy said, raising her finger in the air. "That's it. This thing is like a storm, like a magical hurricane full of undead champions and monsters. But every storm has a center. If we could get in the middle of it, we could attack from the inside out." "That's brilliant!" Alex shouted. "So how do we do this?" Jed asked. Genghis smiled. "A hammer throw special?" "Yes, that's it," Alex agreed. "A hammer throw special." "What the heck is a hammer throw?" Sparkles asked. "Just the most iconic champion tag team move ever conceived," Genghis said. "One champion, always the strongest of the team, throws the smallest but deadliest member into the center of a battle," Alex explained. Aspy raised a finger. "Statistically, if it's a bullseye shot, the impact does massive damage. But it also stuns the enemy for several seconds, drops all shields to 0, and allows for even more up-close injury that rapidly degrades the opponents even if they are buffed or being assisted by a healer." "Exactly what she said," Genghis winked at Aspy. Aspy smiled and added, "But the throw has to be dead-on accurate, otherwise it is instant death for the one attempting the throw." "But even if we threw a champion into the center of the horde, they wouldn't last a minute," Luna said. "They would if they had support," Aspy replied. "No one can support a fighter who's inside that thing," Luna argued. "That's why the healer and the fighter, Genghis and Alex, must go in together. We hammer throw both as a team. Once inside, Alex can lay waste while Genghis protects and heals," Aspy said, crossing her arms as if resting her case. There was no argument. The plan would be genius if it worked. But would it work? Some minutes later, Luna stepped up into position while Alex and Genghis each tied on a fresh pair of enchanted sneakers. "Grab the end of my chain," she said. Alex took hold of a long length of it, then wrapped it around his armored forearm, cinching it as tightly as possible. Genghis jumped onto his friend's back for a piggyback ride. Lech zoomed by on a winged dactyl beast. "We'll set 'em up. You take 'em out." "You got it!" Alex shouted, throwing up a fist in solidarity. "Eye of the storm maneuver!" Pixel yelled, pointing to the middle of the Dreadhorde. The cannibals zoomed up into the sky, dropping dozens of magical Molotov cocktails, burning back the creatures and clearing a space in the center of the monster mass. The Creep Cannibals made a rapid descent, landed back near the engine's retainer wall, then formed a defensive line so that they might fight shoulder to shoulder. Jed was next. He wrapped his shadow-weave cloak around the two boys, then invoked a binding spell that enveloped Alex and Genghis in the enchanted garment. "Ready?" Luna asked. Both Alex and Genghis nodded. "One hammer throw special coming up," Luna shouted. "May you crush our enemies to bone and ash." Genghis looked at Alex and laughed. "Man, your girlfriend is so intense. I love it." Alex smiled. "Girlfriend? Was that for real?" His heart thrilled at the thought. Miz stepped up. "Give 'em hell, guys," she said, and swung her battle axe like a golf club, hitting them with the flat side, and the two boys shot out into the air. Luna's chain whipped forward with a crack. At the peak of its arc, the chain tightened, and Luna spun them around. With each revolution, their speed and momentum increased, until it was so fast Luna couldn't control it any longer, and she released the chain. Alex and Genghis flew forward, shooting out over the monster, arcing high into the air. When gravity caught hold, they plummeted, rocketing down into the center of the Dreadhorde like an artillery shell. The ground exploded, and when their magical cocoon fell away, they found themselves on their backs in a crater about 3 feet deep. The hammer throw special had hit the target perfectly, literally dead center in the middle of all the action. A true bullseye. They stood up in the hurricane's eye, with the undead swirling around them, still unaware of their presence. Now they could attack from within. "Come on, brother," Genghis laughed. "Let's drink some tears." Alex laughed too as he twirled his sword and raised his shield. Maybe, just maybe, they might stop the horde after all. Alex gave Genghis a fist bump and said, "Let's do this." Genghis nodded, then cast an impressive spell over the two of them. As it enveloped them, the protection spell brushed Alex's skin with the lightest of touches, giving him a sort of buzz and the confidence that he was completely safe from any damage. Alex spun into the nearest undead monster, lopping its head clean from its body. Genghis hovered nearby, completely focused on shielding both of them. At times, he assisted with his own kills, while still maintaining a bubble of magical protection around them both. It was a shame the two boys weren't competing in a tournament, because they were playing the game like never before. No matter what champion or monster struck, Alex met them with skill. Weaving, dodging, and spinning, he shredded every attacker with exquisite precision. Occasionally, they would hear or see one of the creeps, or Modfia, fly above them. The combined effort meant they were now attacking on both the inside and outside of the horde, and the damage was making a serious dent in the health bar. The situation that had been so dire only minutes ago now seemed manageable. If they could keep this pace, it might force the horde to retreat, and they might save the game engine and the Evercore. Chapter 63. When its health and mana finally dropped into the red zone, the worried Dreadhorde turned its attention to stopping Alex and Genghis. Despoiler the Merc Fiend, whom they'd last seen in the arena, stepped out of the horde, holding his long corruption sword. It was a complete surprise to see him, as part of the undead. "Titan, we hate you most of all," Despoiler hissed, swinging his giant sword. Alex raised his shield and attempted to rush the swamp monster. At the same time, 2 long tentacles from an undead slime squid wrapped around his ankles and pulled his legs out from under him. Alex tripped forward, losing his balance, and fell right into the path of Despoiler's blade. The corruption sword sliced through his armor into his back. Alex screamed from the pain. His health bar dropped dangerously low. It was a devastating blow. Meanwhile, the slime squid had turned on Genghis, wrapping its poisonous tentacles around his arms, legs, and waist. All of Genghis's energy turned to his own defense. The shields around Alex dropped away, leaving him more exposed. You may have defeated me, Despoiler laughed, echoing Malvexus' voice and mannerisms. But I will have the last word. The Evercore will be mine, and nothing will stop me. Despoiler raised his sword high. Suddenly, a new tentacle wrapped around Alex and pulled him back just as the corruption blade plunged down. Alex looked behind him to see Genghis holding the other end. He'd killed the slime squid and used one tentacle to save him. But Genghis was nearly out of mana, and so was Alex. As the horde moved in, Genghis conjured one of his best special attacks, called the Holy Hand Grenade, and threw it at the weakest part of the horde. It detonated, blowing a hole through to the outside. The boys rushed through and tumbled onto a nearby grassy knoll. They were down for the count and nearly dead. Team Modvia and the Creep Cannibals were huddled together in eyeshot of the knoll. They had cut the horde down to a quarter of its original size, but every player was wounded and near death. It seemed Malvexus would win no matter what they tried. The Dreadhorde continued moving toward the Evercore. Chapter 64. Alex and Genghis were down on their backs. Both were dying, this time for real. Alex felt the specter of panic hovering over him. In a few more seconds, it might possess him fully, and he would freak out and become of little help to himself or anyone else. He had to do something. He looked at the horde. The health on the monster was solidly red, near the danger zone, but still strong enough to resist another attack. Genghis only had enough mana for one good spell. Alex had enough health for maybe one more attack. But the horde was sitting pretty with enough power to withstand both. He glanced over his shoulder and could see the rest of his friends. The Modvia and the Creep Cannibals were helping each other retreat, tending to each other's wounds and arguing amongst themselves about what to do next. They were all in the same position, only slivers of health left. Any additional damage could kill them, and it would be over. There was only one option that made sense, but it was gut-wrenching. Could he do it? Would he do it? Alex crawled as close to Genghis as he could get. "Got any fight left in you, buddy?" he asked. "Barely," Genghis groaned. He was holding his ribs and winced every time he moved. "How about you?" "My mana's down to 0, Alex wheezed. Hardly enough health to stand up. Genghis couldn't even raise his head. "I'm sorry, Alex. This is the end. We're not going to win this one." Genghis looked at him sheepishly, as if he was ashamed of his efforts during the battle, like he'd failed Alex. "I know winning is so important to you. I hate that it ends like this." Alex immediately felt the crushing weight of shame. It was as if years of guilt might smother him. Tears welled in his eyes. Alex tried to speak despite the emotion. "Dude, you have it so wrong. That's not why I'm upset. No way. Not now." Genghis looked profoundly sad. "It's okay, Alex. You don't have to explain anything to me." Alex grabbed Genghis by the arm. "Now listen to me, man. The only person who's failed during this whole adventure is me." Genghis turned back to face his friend, the emotion obvious on his face. "I've been the biggest jerk ever," Alex continued. "I get it now. I'm the one who screwed up. This game has been the only thing I've cared about, and I guess it's because winning is the only thing I've ever done that's mattered. I have 0 other skills. Nobody cares about me when I'm not playing this game. This is all I've got." Alex raised his hands, then winced. He pulled something from his pocket, opened it, and put it in his mouth. "At any rate, that's what I thought until I saw you so sick. I couldn't believe I was going to lose you. You're my best friend." He paused and looked away, wiping a few tears from his eyes. "At least, I hope you still are. And well, you're the reason I still play. No one else celebrates me winning like you do." He patted Genghis on the shoulder. "By the way, Thank you for being that kind of friend." "You don't have to thank me," Genghis wheezed, raising an unsteady hand to first wipe some of his own tears, then to give Alex a weak fist bump. "Bros forever, my man. Bros forever." "You're wrong, though. I do need to thank you. I should have been a better friend to you. You deserved so much better." Genghis held up one hand, and Alex took it. They squeezed, and Alex used the leverage to roll up on one elbow and pull himself closer to Genghis. "I appreciate what you're saying, dude, but stop talking like that." Genghis looked at him with concern. "You're scaring me." Alex decided he would start being a better friend right now by easing some of Genghis's anxiety. He plastered a goofy smile on his face as he dragged himself closer. "Now, we don't have much time, so promise me you won't tell anyone I did this." "Did what?" "This." Alex grabbed one end of Genghis's magical staff, stretched it out over Genghis, and invoked a mana-draining spell. There wasn't much to drain, but thankfully it was enough. Both the Modphia and the cannibals, now taking cover behind the retaining wall, clambered over each other, trying to see what the heck was going on with Alex and Genghis. "What's happening? What are they doing?" Luna asked. Alex is. "Oh no, I think he's doing it again," Miz shouted. "What?" Jed asked. Aspy shook her head. "He's stealing the rest of Genghis's mana." "He's lost his dang mind," Miz shouted. Everyone shielded their eyes. An explosion of light and power erupted between the two boys. When they looked again, Alex was up, but Genghis was still down on his back. Miz couldn't believe it and burst into tears. "I really thought he'd learned his lesson, that he might be different now." "No, you see it," Jed raged. "He only cares about himself." "Oh my God," Aspy said. "We have to get over there. He's killing Genghis." From their vantage point, it seemed that Alex had absorbed all his friend's remaining magic and was now doing something even worse. This was too much for everyone. They were defeated, and now they were being betrayed by one of their own. All hope drained from the group. Back on the grassy knoll, Alex could barely look Genghis in the eye as he drained his remaining mana. Genghis was speechless, dumbfounded by the sudden attack. "I'm sorry about this, buddy," Alex said, hovering over the boy as Genghis's health bar ticked down to nothing. "But that spell isn't the worst of it. So, really forgive me for what comes next. And please, please, never tell anyone I did this. Okay?" Genghis, now panicked and extremely weak, tried to push Alex back. "What are you doing?" "This." Alex bent over and licked Genghis's forehead. Genghis was so surprised he laughed. "You've gone completely bonkers, Garcia. Who's the high one now?" Alex smiled, hooked one finger in his mouth, and pulled out a small, translucent piece of wet paper. "Sorry for the non-consensual tongue action, but I've lost all my spit. I've been sucking on this thing the whole time we've been talking." He activated the temporary tattoo he'd gotten from the Gamemaster with the stolen mana, then he pressed it to Genghis's forehead, using one of his dirty thumbs. Next, he rubbed and massaged it until it was transferred and in place. Once the slick paper backing was off, he brushed it aside and blew air over the resulting tattoo. It was a familiar image. The Wraith's skull of resurrection. "What the heck, man?" Genghis said, gently touching his forehead. Alex cast a quick reflection spell to give him a look. "I appreciate the adornment. It's a gracious gift. But I don't really think this is the time to worry about decorating our skins." Suddenly, golden light burst from the skull tattoo. Genghis stiffened as a bolt of magical energy surged through his body. He grabbed Alex. Alex grabbed him back. Genghis started convulsing as if something had electrocuted him. His health and mana dropped to 0. The rest of the team watched from a distance. "Now they're both dying," Jed slapped his forehead in exasperation. No, look, something else is happening, Aspy yelled. Genghis rose from the ground. He hovered like a glowing angel above the battlefield. Then he suddenly blasted Alex with a new healing spell. He's alive, Ms. yelled. That beautiful blunt-smoking bastard, he's alive and higher than he's ever been. It was true. Genghis was literally glowing like the Evercore itself. He pivoted and flew straight to the rest of the team. He zoomed up and hovered over them, while newly sprouted wings on his heavenly white shoes flapped furiously. What's up, my sweet homies? Everyone cheered to see him alive. Genghis had manifested the Wraith's mark, which proved he had received the Wraith's Skull of Resurrection, a regeneration artifact made from an Evercore crystal. The item resurrected the user within 5 seconds of death, regenerating both health and mana to 100%. It was one of the best artifacts a healer could get. The more mana the possessor spent in combat, the more his nearby allies were healed. It was the ultimate buff. Genghis's character bars verified this. They were shining like brilliant emeralds, proving the Wraith Skull had maxed out both his health and mana. "We thought Alex had killed you, man," Jed shouted. "Alex?" Genghis shrugged. "No way, dude. That guy's our friend." Some units away, Alex was indeed trying to be the best friend possible. He threw himself back into the battle, attacking a fresh wave of the Dreadhorde, whooping and hollering as he went. "He's fighting to save us," Luna shouted, marveling. Despite the obvious dangers, everyone cheered. Relief flooded over them, along with more tears and squeals and yells of happiness. While they celebrated, Genghis folded his fingers, stirring the air as if seasoning a bowl of soup, slowly forming a molten ball of chakra energy. It was one of the most powerful regeneration spells he'd ever managed. "You guys ready for some juice?" Genghis asked. Everyone cheered again. "We don't have much time, so brace yourselves. This will tickle." A wave of refreshing magic shot from his hands and washed over the two teams. Instantly, their health and mana were maxed out. Genghis, still hovering above them, turned toward the horde where Alex was plowing through the undead like a human weed whacker. "Come on, guys, let's melt some butts." The teams let out a collective battle cry and charged. Chapter 65. As the team fought, Genghis rose high above the battle, where he could easily track the movements of everyone he intended to support. His green eyes were wide with rapturous delight. All the negative effects of the dread magic had disappeared. He was completely healed, but more than that, he had somehow tapped into the Evercore itself. Through some strange magic, it seemed as if the core had possessed Genghis, embodying itself in one champion to help fight back against its dark enemy. Genghis embraced the union. The mind of the Evercore was wholly benevolent and, dare he say, worried for the champions. It was even compassionately empathetic toward the creatures trapped in the Dreadhorde's morass. The Evercore wanted to save everyone. Within his mind, Genghis heard a voice saying, "This is the real game of life, young man. One must figure out how to live fully while helping all other sentient beings do the same." Genghis touched the tattoo that Alex had pasted to his forehead. Surely Alex could have used this power himself, but he had given it away. Why? Your friend made the right choice. A very creative and noble choice. "Celebrate the sacrifice," the Evercore said, giving Genghis a new insight. "Share this power with your friends, for this is the greatest of the virtues, that a friend would lay his life down for the other." Genghis smiled serenely. Yes, this was everything he knew in his heart to be true and right. He began methodically casting healing and buff spells upon his teammates. Then he turned his attention to Alex. His friend had fought, back into the eye of the horde. Taking careful aim, Genghis threw one of his best spells. The mystical energy missed Alex, glanced off the scaly back of some lizard-like creature, and dissipated into the ether. Genghis tried again several more times, but no matter how expertly he cast the spell, he couldn't reach Alex. Thankfully, for the moment, Alex was fighting so well he didn't need the help, but a shudder of anxiety flowed through Genghis. It seemed both he and the Evercore felt concern for Alex. How long could he last? Genghis forced his attention back on the other team members. They had to stay fully charged if the horde would be put down. The cosmos depended on their victory. He prayed Alex could stay in the fight. Meanwhile, Alex was lost in the dance of war. He'd never felt so clear-eyed, so focused. All his anxiety was gone. It seemed as if something had kicked his abilities into overdrive. He was making a sizable dent in the Dreadhorde by once again cutting from the inside out. His teammates were making their own progress. The consciousness that had corrupted the horde was distracted by its outward defense and its unwavering desire to consume the Evercore. Alex was, in many ways, being ignored. But that didn't lessen the danger. "This is for Miz," he yelled. "This is for Aspy." He spun around and faced an undead monster brandishing 2 battle axes. "This is for Jed. This is for Genghis. And this is for Luna." He fought on with a single-minded purpose: save his friends. Chapter 66. Unbeknownst to Alex, the 2 teams were also fighting the best they ever had. Having faced each other several times in competition play, they knew each other's tactics, and slowly but surely each team adapted to those eccentricities, becoming one larger team that seemed to maximize their skill in all the right ways. "I can't stop this one!" Miz yelled. She'd lost the bladed head on her battle axe, and her magical base was mere splinters and completely useless. Lech and Starminx zoomed in to help. This freed Miz up to tank through the next layer of the horde. And so it went. Genghis flew overhead, channeling all his core energy into the team. Alex kept chopping from the inside out. The Sparkles Modvia and the Creep Cannibals continued to trim the size of the monster until the creature seemed to sense its impending defeat. Ever the cheat, the spirit of Malvexus seduced the horde to make one last massive push. The monster rose into the sky on a column of undead creatures, angled down, and threw itself like a spear toward the retaining wall. A tremendous explosion mushroomed up, and the blast knocked most of the team to the ground. However, when the smoke disappeared, the result was clear. The horde had failed. Miz, Aspy, Jed, and Genghis stood together, arms locked at the elbows. A glowing, glittering ball of energy shimmered around them, acting as an impenetrable shield. The horde's spearhead had sunk several units into the team's magical cocoon, and now, by some reverse magic, the Modvia was draining all the remaining power from the monster. Within several seconds, the morass of undead creatures collapsed like a house of cards, littering the field with the shriveled remains of the now truly dead. The residual dread magic filtered out of those remains like a doomed spirit, screaming in painful protest. Then it flew away like an angry ghost, disappearing in the dark sky. When it was clear they'd won, Genghis lowered the shield and the team cheered. Already standing together, they drew each other even closer in one massive team bear hug. Somehow, and some way, they'd done it. The game's fragile voice sputtered. "Your enemy has been defeated." Another collective cheer that seemed to come from the Evercore itself roared across the battle moon. Chapter 67. "Where is Alex?" Genghis asked, triggering a collective panic. Their teammate, wasn't with them celebrating. He wasn't even on the battlefield, at least nowhere nearby. "Look, there," Jed pointed. "Is that him?" In the far distance, at the tail end of the debris field, a pile of corpses lay in a gruesome stack. Alex's glowing starstone blade that had been thrust into the top of the pile rose majestically skyward, like a cross. Still glittering with magic, the sword's energy cast a light upon the face of their missing friend. Alex lay on his back, sprawled on top of the pile, lifeless and unmoving. "Oh, no!" Luna yelled as she ran forward. Genghis gathered the two teams in a bubble of energy and lifted them into the air, flying them to Alex's resting place. When they landed at the foot of the pile, Miz and Aspy and Jed climbed to the top. The Creep Cannibals spaced themselves out to form a human chain, so they could slowly and carefully move Alex down the pile and onto a clear patch of the grassy knoll. "Alex, can you hear us?" Aspy asked, resting his head on Alex's chest, desperately listening for a heartbeat. "Oh no," Miz said, holding her hand to her mouth. "Look at his stats." Both the mana and health bars were completely drained, devoid of even the slightest bit of energy. "No, not like this," Genghis cried. "It can't end like this." Chapter 68. The feeble voice of the game engine made another announcement. "Your teammate has become legendary." Alex's lifeless body shuddered, then levitated above the ground. It paused for a moment, hovering over the debris of the battlefield, then slowly floated past his teammates, into the nearby wilderness, and disappeared. Luna Lifestealer stepped up next to Aspy. "By the heart of the cosmos, no one in the game's long history has ever become legendary." "You mean not until now," Aspy said, wiping tears off her cheek. Luna nodded her head in agreement. "Wow, Alex, you finally did it," Genghis muttered sadly under his breath. Jed put an arm around his shoulder. "Yeah, that crazy bastard really did it." The teams watched over the horizon, hoping against hope they might see some sign of Alex respawning in the dim sapphire halls of the sanctum. Meanwhile, as everyone continued to grieve, Alex rematerialized behind them. He tried to take a step forward, then stumbled and cursed. Everyone turned around, amazed. "No freaking way!" Genghis cheered. "Alex, you're alive!" Are you sure about that?" Alex asked, squinting at the surrounding faces, "because I feel like death warmed over." Alex stumbled again and sank to his knees. "You look it too," Lech said. Jed promptly hit Lech in the ribs to shut him up. Then Genghis, Miz, Aspy, and Jed dogpiled on top of their friend like a pack of wild rift wolves, smothering him in a cacophony of hugs, laughs, screams, tears, and grateful cheers. "But how?" Alex asked, searching their faces for an answer. His eyes landed on Luna's smile, her marvelous, incredible smile that shined like the cosmos itself. "How am I alive?" he asked again. "I know I should be dead." The Gamemaster appeared in a swirl of magic next to the team, then knelt down next to Alex. He reached out and stroked Alex's head affectionately. "Quite simple, my brave champion," he said, offering a fatherly smile. "Legends never die." Part 10. Battle Moon. Cosmic Champions. Chapter 69. The only sign of life left in the Horde was the champion who had started the whole debacle. Having dug himself from beneath the Horde's remains, Malvexus, nothing more than a living skeleton now, struggled, clawing his way into a stand of ferns growing several yards from the edge of the battlefield. As he reached out, grasping at the nearby tree roots, Luna stepped in front of him. "Hello, brother." Malvexus looked up, straining to respond, but found he didn't have the energy or power to do anything but stare helplessly at his sister. "Thought you should know," Luna said, conjuring a last spell that produced a gleaming silver artifact with mystical runes carved along its outer rim. "You finally won a prize no one else possesses." The large ring opened along a hinge. Luna placed it around Malvexus' neck and clamped it shut. The runes flared with magic, and the collar tightened in place. A length of chain telescoped out of the manacle. Luna picked it up, as if she were about to take her pet for a walk. "The silver runestone collar of eternal imprisonment," Luna said. "I knew it would fit you perfectly." Luna snapped her fingers, and hundreds of tiny flags appeared holographically all over Malvexus, giving him the appearance of a porcupine. Luna snapped again, and the flags illuminated red with a resounding ding. Suddenly, 2 young cosmomancers materialized on either side of Malvexus. They appeared strangely familiar. One was a rather short and plump man, holding an oversized cup of pink slurp ice, and the other was a tall, skinny man with long red hair tied back in a ponytail, who took his glasses off and cleaned them with his faded Cosmic Champions t-shirt. Cosmic Champions t-shirt. "Slipstream 76, at your service, Ms. Lifestealer. This is my co-mod, Beanfart 69, the tall moderator said in his surfer bro accent. He waved a hand at his partner, then gave Luna a quick, bored glance. "Did you call for a moderator?" Beanfarts 69 stared at Luna, gulping his slushie loudly. Yeah," Luna said, pointing down at Malvexus. Suddenly recognizing who had been collared, they both showed immense interest. "No way!" Slipstream 76 pushed his glasses back on his nose. Beanfarts 69 dropped his giant cup and pointed excitedly at Malvexus. "Well, tickle my sweaty undercarriage. We've been trying to catch this troll for ages. He keeps changing his gamer tag." Slipstream 76 crouched next to Malvexus, taking a closer look. "Ouch. You don't look so hot, dude." "This is the champion responsible for nearly destroying the entire battle moon, the game engine, and the Evercore itself," Luna said. "Please make sure you lock him up and throw away the key. Justice demands it." "Don't worry, with this many flags and that collar, he's never playing this game again," Beanfart 69 said. He produced a magical tablet and gave it a few taps. Then he handed it to Slipstream 76 for approval. "Thanks for bringing this to our attention," Slipstream 76 said, raising one finger high. "By the way, we're obligated to tell you we may need further information to close this case. If we do, we'll contact you in 2 business days." "But don't worry," Beanfart 69 said, winking at Luna. "This banishment is a slam dunk." Beanfart 69 handed Luna a roll of Emporium tickets and patted her on the shoulder. Luna looked at him like he was crazy. He gave her a weak smile and stepped up next to Malvexus and Slipstream 76. "Come on, Skeletor," Slipstream 76 said, taking the collar from Luna. "I'm afraid you've been banned for life." "In other words," Beanfart 69 said, "game over, loser!" A mystical portal opened behind the 2 moderators. They stepped through, pulling Malvexus along with them, and all 3 disappeared with a snap. Chapter 70. 2 days later, the battle moon showed 0 signs of the calamitous fight with Malvexus and the Dreadhorde. The sapphire sanctum gleamed in the early evening starlight, and at the opposite end of the long Deadman's Road, the crimson castle sparkled and flickered like a magical candle. There was one notable change to the map. Gamemaster had constructed a gleaming stadium in the heart of the wilderness. It was filled to the brim with representatives of the Cosmic Alliance. Humanoids and alien creatures of every shape and size. Banners of their favorite champions billowed in the evening breeze. The occasional crack of fireworks mixed with music and cheers as each of the Alliance's most famous champions was presented before the crowd on a floating dais that hovered over the center of the field. The Mafia and the Creep Cannibals were invited to the backstage of the dais, where they gathered in their teams and peered through the curtains at the stadium. "This has to be the best party ever," Genghis declared, awe in his voice. Everyone agreed. "What's wrong with the beanpole?" Chump grunted and hooked his thumb at Lech. Sparkles shrugged, not bothering to turn around. Those who looked had noticed something was off. Lech's hand was flickering in and out of existence. "Whoa, dude! You're glitching!" Starminx shouted. Her head phased in and out of reality. "You too," Lech pointed. "Oh, man! That's totally weird." Suddenly, the phasing had spread like a virus to the entire cannibal team, including Sparkles and Chump. "It's not happening to the Mafia," Aspy pointed out. She shot a glance at Pixel, whose lower half was missing. "We seem to be immune." "Garcia, is this your doing?" Sparkles demanded, half his face gone in a glitch. "As soon as my foot reappears, it's going straight up your—" "No need to be alarmed, my young friends." Gamemaster appeared in a whoosh of magic. He raised both hands to calm the group. "This condition will be resolved momentarily, and all will be put right." "What's happening to them?" Ms. asked. "Is it some side effect of the dread magic?" Aspy wondered. "No, I'm afraid this is my fault," Gamemaster said, placing a comforting hand on Vertigo's glitchy shoulder. "Allow me to explain." "By all means," Sparkles snarked, as his lower half vanished again. "It's no surprise that during the last battle, my abilities were pushed to their limits. With the enormous number of enemies attacking the Evercore, I had only enough energy left for one powerful spell, and used it on a very ancient one." Aspy's eyes widened. "What's this spell called?" "It is called Summon Deus Ex Machina." "Summon Dude's Macaroni?" Jed wondered. "Close, child. Something like that." "Should I be impressed or not?" Jed laughed. Gamemaster gave him a weak smile and continued. "Cosmomancers are only allowed to cast the spell once a universal cycle, which means roughly every millennium. The last time I did it, I nearly respawned myself." "What exactly does it do?" Genghis asked. "The spell conjures an unexpected solution to an unsolvable problem, but the cost is high, and the effect is completely unknown." "So, that's how the Creep Cannibals and Sparkles got here," Alex concluded. "Yes, it seemed so," Gamemaster said. "But why us?" Vertigo asked. "For some reason, the Evercore felt you were the right team for that moment, perhaps because of your great friendship with Alex and the Mafia. The magic would not have chosen you otherwise." "Well," Deadlass stammered, "that's strange because the last time we were together we were trying to kill each other." Gamemaster laughed. "Ha! That proves it! No doubt you are a genuine family of friends. Only those who care deeply bicker so passionately." "If you say so." Lech smiled, then shrugged his invisible shoulders. "I mean, I guess it's true. The respect has always been there, even though I would never tell Alex or the others. They're the best I've ever played. That's why I wanted my team to beat them so badly." Gamemaster smiled. "Yes, you see, like magic, friendship takes many forms." "So what's up with this glitching?" Alex asked. "I'm sure they'd like their faces and bodies back in one piece." Everyone with a visible head nodded in agreement. "This effect is totally normal as the countdown on my spell approaches its final revolutions," Gamemaster said, waving off any concern. "In a few seconds, the spell's magic will fade, and this glitching will be resolved." What the heck does that mean for us? Pixel asked. You will return safely to the time and place from which you came. Unfortunately, you may not retain any memory of your visit to the battle moon. Dang, man, that sucks, Lech said. I love it here. Yes, I'm afraid it's not ideal, Gamemaster said, patting the boy on the shoulder. But to sweeten that bitter pill, I offer you a magical reward, hoping your possession of such will eventually reawaken your memories of the great deeds you performed here, and most of all, our deep appreciation of your bravery. Gamemaster waved his staff over the cannibals, as well as Chump and Sparkles. After stirring the air above them for several seconds, magic radiated out, caressing them gently like fingers. When the strange light faded, a golden tattoo adorned each of their wrists. Everyone stared curiously at the pulsing symbols. "What is it?" Deadlast asked, rubbing the arcane mark. "Your reward," Gamemaster said. "A special faction seal called Knights of the Cosmic Alliance." "Oh man, my mom is gonna freak," Pixel said. "She hates tattoos." "This will not be visible to your mother, dear, but when needed, a faction seal will magically identify you as a special friend of the Cosmic Alliance. If and when a starway is opened on Earth, the seal will trigger a summoning spell, putting you first in line to the battle moon." Before anyone could say anything further, a countdown timer appeared holographically above the cannibals, counting down from 10 to 0 seconds. "Farewell, my friends. The Alliance thanks you for your service." The Matvia waved to their friends, who were swept up in a mystical twirl of magic. They glitched magically one last time before disappearing. "Wow, I hope they're okay," Ms. said. "They very much will be," Gamemaster said. "I guarantee it." He stepped forward and peeked between the curtains. "Now, my friends, please excuse me," he added, stepping through and onto the main stage. "Today's most important duties await." Moments later, Gamemaster stood in the center of the floating dais. He addressed the stadium's audience, his face mirrored on a host of gigantic screens. "Dear citizens of the Cosmic Alliance, the game engine is restored. The Evercore is out of danger and the battle moon regenerated. The glorious tradition of our game has been saved." A raucous cheer burst from the crowd for several minutes. It is with immense gratitude that I present to you the players who made this possible. A team who, through their valiant efforts, showed our grand collective of unified worlds that the virtues our traditions revere and our game reveals still exist even in the darkest corners of the universe. Their bravery and camaraderie prove goodness continues to hold our cosmos together and can be found in the most unlikely of places. A spotlight beamed down on the Sparkles Matvia, and they stepped out from behind the curtain, waving to the audience. The crowd roared with tremendous applause until the old cosmomancer raised his hands. In ages of old, when the battle moon was new, the cosmomancers had a cadre of elite protectors. As the eons passed, the need for such guardians diminished, and the tradition faded into the shadows of memory. However, recent events have shown such warriors are needed once again. So today, I announce this tradition's restoration. Gamemaster pointed his magical staff at Luna and the Matvia as new golden insignias appeared on their uniforms. "Thus, I declare the foundation of the Cosmic Honor Guard. I have recruited these 6 champions you see before you for this commendation. Fate forged them in the most epic of battles, and henceforth, they will stand ready to protect the cosmos if such danger ever comes again." This time, the eruption from the crowd was so thunderous, Alex wondered if the stadium might collapse in on itself. While Alex and the team waved to the crowd, A parade of skulks holding brightly colored sparklers marched onto the stage and began a musical number that included a marvelous display of acrobatic choreography, musical instruments, and melodious lyrics that no one except Jed seemed to understand. As the skulks entertained, the Modfia and Gamemaster huddled together near the back of the stage. Gamemaster leaned in to share more news. Because of your team's tremendous bravery in the face of certain death, we will invite the people of Earth into the Cosmic Alliance, he said. The Gamemaster then turned to Jed with a mysterious twinkle in his eyes. I hereby appoint you, Genrivers, as Earth's official herald. It will be your job to recruit new Earthborn players for future contests. Will you accept a portal key in recognition of that honor? Me? Jed was flabbergasted. Are you sure about that? Gamemaster waved a hand to produce the portal key, and it hovered in front of Jed. I know of no one better than you, young man, to find players who will honor the rules of the Battle Moon, Gamemaster said, winking at Jed. Your loyalty to your friends was an unlikely inspiration to the rest of the team. Without your steadfastness, surely the team would have been lost. Jed nodded his approval and held out his hand. The key spun as it magically descended into his palm and created a glowing tattoo. Wow, that's cool. Thank you. Gamemaster patted Jed on the shoulder and stepped down the line. With a flourish of magic, he produced another portal key and gave it to Ms. What? Are you serious? She asked. Why me? Gamemaster pointed at Jed. I'm sure your friend will need some assistance as the new herald. I can think of no one better to back him up. Plus, of all your team members, you seem to have the strongest connection to your birth world. With the portal key, you'll be able to return home whenever you so desire. James was on the verge of tears as she accepted it. One more thing for you, young lady, Gamemaster said. With another flourish, the cosmomancer conjured a new magical bass guitar and handed it to Ms. I'm afraid part of the Cosmic Honor Guard's duties include ceremonial music. I hope you are up to the task. This fine instrument shall replace the one you lost in the battle. It is enchanted to ensure that it's indestructible and never goes out of tune. Ms. took the bass. Heck yeah, I can handle that, she beamed. Gamemaster patted her on the shoulder and moved on to Aspy, to whom he handed a small plastic card. What is this? She asked. Your brilliance saved the day, young lady. A growing mind such as yours needs all the nourishment it can get. To that end, I gift you with a card from my library. I've never given one out before. It entitles the holder to check out any item from my entire collection. He winked at Aspy. She nodded her head in appreciation, marveling at the glimmering card. You know, cosmomancers sometimes take on apprentices, if you should ever be interested. Aspy's mouth dropped open. Think about it, he said, moving on down the line. We can discuss the details after the ceremony. Dear Luna, Gamemaster said. He swept back a fold of his cloak and retrieved a sword with an ornate scabbard. I want to gift this fine blade to you. It is made from impeccable gladiatorian steel and enchanted with tremendous magic. It seems the blade may cut through almost anything in the cosmos. I call it Dreadbane. Luna looked up at the cosmomancer. Her eyes glistened as she nodded and took the sword. It's extraordinary, she said, marveling at the exquisite gift. Thank you so much, sir. It's my hope that you will lead the Cosmic Honor Guard with that sword. That company needs a captain, and I want you to take the position because I can think of no other warrior worthy of it. Luna bowed her head again. Yes, sir. It would be my honor. No, dear one. The honor is all mine. He patted her on the shoulder, then turned and stared toward stage right. he motioned to a group of skulks waiting in the wings. When they saw his signal, they scurried out. Finally, let's not forget what's owed each of you. Alex recognized two of the lead skulks from the Sapphire Sanctum, Vicar Scalodius and Scalercian Scalarni. Vicar scurried up to Jed and dropped a rather large leather bag on Jed's boot. "Whoa, little dude," Jed winced. "That could break a man's foot." Jed leaned over to examine the bag. Scullison looked up at Jed, smiling and chattering in the Skulk language, while pointing his little claw at the bag. Jed translated for the team. "He says it's a special bonus loot drop." Jed opened the bag. "Oh, my sweet noob nuts! It's full of gold coins!" The two skulks proceeded down the line, dropping similar enormous bags of gold in front of each team member. The two team member eyed the gold. "There's enough gold in here to last a lifetime," Alex exclaimed. "Yes, I believe so," Gamemaster said. "Certainly enough to provide generously for yourselves and your families. No one need worry about lack of treasure ever again." Alex was overwhelmed and suddenly had a burning urge to rush home and show his mother. Finally, their biggest struggles would be behind them. Finally, he had a reason to go home. But that journey would have to wait for a few more minutes because the Skulk's brief show was over and the stadium crowd of thousands erupted into deafening cheers. They were chanting the team's name. The Gamemaster raised his arms and the crowd immediately fell silent. "Thank you to our performers." He turned toward the Skulk entertainers and said, "Your music and aerial feats were outstanding." The Skulks bowed and exited the stage as the crowd cheered again. Gamemaster waved his staff. "Now, my dear citizens of the Cosmic Alliance, once again, please join me in celebrating our newest champions. The pride of all Earthborn, Sparkles, Maudvia." Each team member stepped forward and one by one took their assigned places at the edge of the platform, while the crowd continued cheering. "In addition to the honors already bestowed, I declare one of these exceptional champions as the most valuable player. That honor goes to Lois Cho, better known to all of you as Genghis the Bad Vibe Killer." Using his magical sneakers, Genghis levitated above the dais, spinning like a breakdancer in the air. The crowd roared with delight. And for the first time in our monumental history, one of these celebrated champions has secured legendary status. His personal sacrifice restored my faith in the game and all that our alliance stands for. Everyone here knows his name now. Alex Garcia, or as we shall call him, Titan Horde Slayer. The eruption of adulation was so incredible that Alex wanted to cry, but the embrace from his own team overwhelmed that momentary emotion, leaving him with one heartwarming thought. Team hugs might be the best prize of all. Gamemaster's voice boomed over the battle moon, calling their names one last time. Titan, Genghis, Aspy, Ripghoul, Bad Business, and Luna Lifestealer. He swept his hands in the air, producing a new burst of colorful fireworks above the stadium. "My dear Alliance, I give you the greatest players our game has ever known. Here stands the champions of the cosmos." The end. That concludes Cosmic Champions, written by Mark Caldwell Jones. We hope that you've enjoyed the audio presentation of this novel. Please like and subscribe and follow this channel to get the next installment of this exciting story. Visit Mark at JonesMarkC on all the socials for additional information and links to other free audiobooks and the next book in this series. Thanks for listening.